How's it going, everyone? And welcome to, I suppose, a random upload. It's not a week, but yeah, we're doing Sunday. So, the reason we're doing this video is Disney kind of just announced lots of things coming to their streaming platform. Now, I use their streaming platform. Me and my sister have an agreement. She gets my Netflix, I get her Disney. Works pretty well. Especially because Disney owns much of the property that I am very big fans of. I really like Marvel stuff. I love Star Wars. We have not made a secret of that when we're talking on stream. On Twitch, that's where we stream. Every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday from 3 o'clock. You should stop by. I highly recommend it. The link will be underneath the video. But I wanted to talk about the things that were kind of coming up here. So I'm excited for some of these things. So, jumping right into it. Star Wars first, then Marvel afterwards. That actually seems like a really good segue for the intro. Let's do the intro! Maestro! So, the first one that was announced, or the first one on the list. No, the first one that's announced. Ignore that part. We don't know. It's the first one that we've got on the list. Is Ahsoka. So, in the Clone Wars movie, when Ahsoka was introduced, she was okay. I think people found her annoying. Like, the last thing that people decided that Anakin needed was a little orange sidekick. As the show went on, or as actually the series was created and kind of went on, she became a really interesting character. She grew into her own power and spent much of her time around some of the best Jedi that existed. You know? Plo Koon is one of the most formidable duelists that the Order had at the time. Strong, was capable of even going toe-to-toe with Yoda. And him and Ahsoka had quite a close relationship. Obi-Wan, she was around a lot. And whilst not the most exceptional Jedi, also was. Like, in terms of being a force-wielding, lightsaber-twirling user, he didn't really stand out. Yes, he was a master of Sorosu, but even in the lore and the canon, he was not actually the most gifted of Jedi. But he is one of the Jedi. Everything about him, he loses everyone that he cares about. And everything that the Jedi tell them, not to form attachments, because attachments lead to the dark side. All these attachments that he formed, at no point did he even come close to turning. When he lost Qui-Gon, he raged out a little bit. He was still a Jedi at the end of it. When he lost Satine, he was still him. And then, obviously, we all know about Anakin. Ahsoka spent her time around him. And then, of course, she was the Padawan to Anakin Skywalker. She was trained in how to be unorthodox, as Anakin was. It's what made him such a good general in the Clone Wars. He was not a conventional Jedi strategist. He was, in fact, more like Revan. The story of Revan that you hear is that he was basically a master strategist and a fine warrior. Anakin is very reminiscent of what you hear about Revan. Except he had, you know, the emotional side and everything. It made him unpredictable. And this is who Ahsoka learned off of. And then when Order 66 came, and she was alone, she managed to go off by herself. And you see her in Rebels. They brought her back in Rebels, where she is, again, like, she's older, but she's this formidable duelist who can go toe-to-toe with Inquisitors with really absolutely no issue. Able to fight Darth Maul and survive. She can take on the Inquisitors. She took on Vader and maybe lived, died. It's not really clear. They obviously used it then later on in the series in Rebels. And then they introduced her in Mandalorian, Now, going from animation to live action is slightly tricky. Because there are, I suppose, limitations. We can't move in the strange ways that a cartoon can. And for some reason, people lost their minds that her Leku was not long enough. It's like, shut up. Literally everything else was on point. Rosario Dawson moved, sounded, and fought like Ahsoka. As essentially like a wandering grey Jedi type, is potentially going to make some interesting stories. Not to mention that they've also said that Katie Sackhoff is going to be reprising her role as Bo-Katan. I'm always up for Mandalorians. They are a very interesting race of people and amazing fighters, so they make for good scenes that they're in. But she did the voice work for Bo-Katan in Rebels, Clone Wars, and then in the live action, they still made her look like Bo-Katan. Obviously, she sounds like her; it's the same person, but they made her look like her too. So Ahsoka will be a lot of fun with it. They introduced Rangers of the New Republic. Wasn't too much details on that. It is a spin-off from The Mandalorian. I'm assuming their primary is going to be with like Gina Carano as the Marshal doing things. I think that's what they're setting up with that. So it's mostly going to be following her in doing work for the New Republic stuff. I think they tried to set that up in 2 weeks ago. Chapter 14 of The Mandalorian, I think, is where they were kind of starting that bit. They announced Andor after Cassian Andor. So we saw him in Rogue One. I won't go into any more depth about how that film goes. He already kind of had a team, and Jyn Erso was what then kind of finished up the team. But he kind of alluded to being essentially a rebel killer. Not a soldier, not quite a spy, but more like an assassin who did some wet work and has done some questionable things for the rebellion. Now, whether or not they bring back Alan Tudyk as K2SO, Donnie Yen as is it Chirrut Îwé? The blind kung fu man with the Force. I would love to see him back. And I can't even remember the guy with the minigun. Again, he was pretty cool. They would make it would make for a good series. But they're bringing Diego Luna back to reprise his role as Cassian Andor. And I liked Luna in Rogue One. I thought Diego Luna was really good. When he was telling about his past, it seems quite genuine. He was able to convey that whilst Andor is fighting for the rebellion, he has done some bad things. So I'm interested to see how they do it. They're doing the Bad Batch, which is coming off of season 7 of the Clone Wars. We had the Bad Batch arc, which was 4 or 5 episodes. So I'm curious as to how they're doing it. I haven't seen any trailers or anything for it. And the Bad Batch are basically clone troopers with genetic modifications. So one had increased strength, one had basically extra senses. One of them was the tech guy, and one of them was a sniper supreme. But at the end of the Bad Batch, again, spoilers, at the end of the Bad Batch, Echo joins them. So I don't know if Bad Batch is going to be set before we've seen them. So it's primarily focused around how they become the Bad Batch and then the 4 of them serving. Or if it's going to be set after what we've seen, so Echo will be with them. And more towards Order 66 and Empire times. They were good characters. Now, they spend most of the time with Rex and the 501st. And Rex is amazing. So it's very hard to know whether or not they can carry it by themselves. Or whether or not you just have a show about 4 super soldiers who basically just win the war by themselves. Again, if I wanted that, I would do Republic Commando, which was much more interesting. So again, we will see. how it goes. It depends on how they can work it. There's an announcement of Lando. It's obviously a show about Lando Calrissian. Now, in the original movies, in the original trilogy, Billy D. Williams played just like the typical con man. Lando was smooth. He was like clearly sketchy, but he was charming, and you know he could talk his way out of anything. He was a proper scoundrel. And then obviously they turned him into a general, but he still had that charisma of being the fast-talking con man. When we went to Solo, whilst the film was okay, Donald Glover was amazing. He was so good as Lando. Now, that's mainly because Donald Glover is actually a very good actor. But playing a role as iconic as Lando Calrissian, he clearly did his homework and looked at how Billy D. Williams played the character. And then he basically took it and did the same thing. Both him and... I can't remember the guy's name that played Han actually looked like they did their homework. Because the guy that was playing Han Solo also pulled off, you know, the charismatic smuggler, down to how he walked and how he moved and everything. So with Donald Glover coming back into it, if it's based on him, then it could be for a very good show. However, I've seen stuff that has said it's based on Donald Glover, and I've seen stuff that says that there's no confirmation who's attached to the project. So there's something about Lando, but we don't know if it's Donald Glover or if it's Billy D. Williams. It'll be interesting to see. The Acolyte is one that was announced. So that's obviously based on a new character, which is a series exploring growing dark side powers in the final days of the High Republic era. That sounds like fun to me. The High Republic, we've seen some kind of teasers for, some concept art, lots of Jedi lightsabers with cross guards in a shinier kind of place. They're more like knights in the Code of Chivalry than space samurai. So it's. I think they've talked about that it was more an era of Jedi, and the reason they have the cross guards is because there's no Sith, there's no lightsabers to fight, so they don't. It doesn't matter. They can have this aesthetic choice rather than being completely impractical when they're into a lightsaber fight. So if they're having the growing dark side powers, then that could be, you know, High Republic emergence of the dark side into a Star Wars story that we kind of know. You know, into more like Old Republic style, where you have lots of Jedi, lots of Sith, and lots of impressive lightsaber fights. Not sure. However, Star Wars, I'll still watch it. They've got Droid Story, so it's the return of the series with R2 and 3PO. And they're introducing a new character, whoever that would be. They haven't really talked much about it, but an entire series just around those two. There's only so many hijinks that R2-D2 can get into with 3PO telling him not do it, and then he does it anyway. There's only so much that you can do that with the series. There's also a film being announced that is going to be directed by Wonder Woman's Patty Jenkins, called Rogue One. Not Rogue One, Rogue Squadron. Rogue One's a call sign. Rogue Squadron. Which they've said is not going to be based on the games. As in those really old, kinda bad 3D rendered Star Wars games. The first one was good, actually. The second one was questionable. Is that what they're meaning when they're saying that? I would never have assumed it would be based on that. I would have thought it would be based on, like, the books about Wedge. When he made Rogue Squadron. You can't have Rogue Squadron and not have Wedge. He formed Rogue Squadron. He's, like, the best fighter that the Rebellion has. So, it seems very odd. So that's the announcement of the Star Wars stuff. I'm still very disappointed that there's not been an announcement of an Old Republic style show. I've made comment a couple times on Twitter that one of the things I would love to see, a Star Wars era show based around the Old Republic. Doesn't have to be Revan, but that kind of era. So, before the rule of two came into play, you had lots of Jedi and you had lots of Sith. And because there was a possibility of encountering Sith out and about, the Jedi were all quite formidable duelists. When you've seen, for example, the opening trailers to the Old Republic series, they're amazing. They looked so good and just filled so much excitement with what you could do as a show. There's a lot of actors who can fight, or fighters who can act. And as films have gotten more action-packed and there's a greater need for stuntmen, and technology has allowed stuntmen to be there and kind of CGI faces or cover them up, or better techniques exist, taking part in all this thing. Like, as I said, with Mandalorian, Gina Carano's scenes are amazing. She's obviously doing her own stunts. She's using the skills that she has, whilst not being completely wooden. You know? Anyone remember Mortal Kombat, those 90s ones, that they had questionable acting from the fighters? They had questionable fighting from the actors. And then they had people who were neither. And it was all very strange and very odd. Nowadays, these martial artists can act. And actors basically can be like, you know, do whatever it is, and then they're like, oh yeah, no, I've been doing that since I was like 7. I'm like, of course you are. Alright, beat the shit out of this guy for us. Go. There's also people who are displaying natural talents at it. Charlie Cox is Daredevil, who is obviously rumoured to be back in Spider-Man 3. If that's the case, I will be very excited. But he did some of the work himself on Daredevil, and was apparently actually quite gifted at his combat, at the stuff that they made that Daredevil has to be able to do. Charlie Cox was able to do it. Same with John Bernthal as Punisher. So there's a lot of emergence of these kind of talents that you could take a scene into Old Republic where you need martial artists, you need sword play, you need the ability to act, all these big grand spectacles. And you totally have that now. You have that option. There are many people you could get. And the benefit of Star Wars is it doesn't matter what kind of ethnicity that you have. I'm not sure why that word was so difficult to come out there. You know, it's not like you just have white people. It can be a case of literally anything. Anything at all. You can have black actors, you can have Asian, you can have... Is it Latino? Latinx? Kind of South American actors. You can have people from anywhere in the world. Any gender, any race, it doesn't matter. Because you can just go, why do they look the way they are? Oh, they're from this planet. That's it. That's the benefit of Star Wars. You can literally just make up a planet that they're from. Oh yeah, that's what they look like in the Taris underworld. That's where we got this Jedi from. Oh, this one, yeah, they're from Manan. That's why he's a fish. It doesn't matter. It would be really good. Notice the Old Republic, as I'm talking about that was the first two planets came into my head from the game. Make him Mon Cal. Make him a Mon Calamari. Whatever. Just, if they want to be, if they're human, fish, Twi'lek, it doesn't matter. You can do it from anywhere, any gender, any race. It's great. If they can fight and make a good show, they should definitely do it. And obviously you've got Filoni and Favreau, who are more than good enough of basically creating whatever it is we want. Whatever they want to produce in their fanboy heads, I'll watch it. Because Filoni's not really done anything bad so far with Star Wars. And with Mando, it's so good. Him and Favreau have done really well with it. It's like Star Wars meets Firefly, and I'm really liking it. Anyway, I can spend ages talking about Star Wars. Ooh, I just remembered that I was going through the list, and I wanted to do that one last. As a side note, Star Wars, the Kenobi series. Ewan McGregor's coming back. He's playing Obi-Wan. I have no idea how they're going to do that, because they've also announced that Hayden Christensen is coming back as Anakin Skywalker. Well, Darth Vader, Skywalker, same thing. But he's going to be as Darth Vader. He was really good. The dialogue in the prequels was a little bit questionable. But in Revenge of the Sith, it wasn't a straightforward just fall. Everything you saw in Anakin was his confusion and the Emperor manipulating him into thinking that the Jedi were bad, and the Jedi just inherently kind of running with the plan because they were suspicious of the Chancellor. So they were having him do things that seemed very un-Jedi-like. And Anakin was a great Jedi. Because he grew up as a slave, he idolized the Jedi and what they stood for. So he wanted to be the best Jedi that he could be. He even has a speech in Attack of the Clones where he's talking about that he shouldn't be doing the things that he's doing. It's not the way that the Jedi are. So he was a great Jedi. He tried to follow those teachings. And in Revenge of the Sith, you can see the conflict inside him and how much he doesn't want to do what he's doing. But he's now struggling to be able to see the difference between the Jedi and the Sith, and that it's all the same thing, and that there's really not any difference. And they set the tone with that really well. Right at the start when he fights Dooku. And he defeats him and then executes him. He says he shouldn't have done it, it's not the Jedi way. Then later on, when Mace Windu's gotten the better of the Chancellor, he says that he has to stand trial. And he's like, he's too dangerous to be left alive. And he's like, that's not the Jedi way. He knows that that's not the Jedi way, but the Jedi were still going to do it. So now there's no... If that's not the way of the Jedi, and the Jedi are still going to do it, there's no difference between the two. He can't see it anymore. And Hayden Christensen played that really well. His tortured struggle throughout that entire film, that at the start he goes from that kind of confident Jedi that we've seen in the Clone Wars so much. All those fights that he's just very casually doing stuff and kind of winding up Obi-Wan. That's how he was played. That's how he was played at the start of it. And then he totally pulled that off at the start of the film, and then descends into madness. And the conflict and the struggles and all of it before he finally gives in to the dark side. And even when he does turn to the dark side, he's still not completely there after Mace Windu's killed. He struggles with that. Like, just all of it. He did not deserve the hate that he got because he played that really, really fucking well. So, I'm very excited that he's back. I don't know how they're going to do it. Because if it's set with Ewan McGregor, if it was before like Revenge of the Sith, we've seen all that in Clone Wars. So unless it's as Hayden Christensen and Obi-Wan during their training, maybe between, I don't even know. And if it's after New Hope, I'm not sure how they're fitting in Hayden Christensen as Darth Vader, because he'll be Darth Vader. They don't really meet. We've got the timeline from Revenge of the Sith to A New Hope. That's when they first meet again. When I left you, I was but the learner, now I am the master. So that suggests that they haven't seen each other since that point. I'm not sure how they're going to do it. However, Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan, Hayden Christensen as Darth Vader. Fuck it, give me all of it. Yeah, I'm super excited for all this stuff that's coming through. So that's the video. That's us done. Let me know in the comments what you think. I'm curious to see if there's anything that you're excited for, or maybe you've heard more information than I have and can shed some light on some of the things. But I look forward to hearing from you. And yeah, don't forget to check us out on Twitch if you ever wanted to come talk Star Wars. In case it wasn't very apparent from the length of the video, I'm so game for that. So you guys enjoy yourselves, and hopefully we see you around. Bye.